Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, reporting to you from the Unified Wine and Grape Symposium around this time every year. Allied Grape Growers generally has their survey for nursery survey for vineyard stock and where the trends are going. I'm here with Jeff Bitter, president of Allied Grape Growers. Can you tell us, about what are the trends? What are we seeing as far as varietals and areas?
Well, our nursery survey this year showed us an important trend, and that is that in the state there was less Pinot Noir planted and more Cabernet planted relative to the past, and that's a reversal of the trend that we had seen previously, where Cabernet plantings were slowing down in the interest of more Pinot Noir and other varieties. And Pinot Noir has gotten to the point now where it might be at market capacity, and so we've seen growers react by planting less of that variety. And overall, last year we planted about 16 million vines, which compares to about 15 million the year before, so that is actually pretty flat, and it's a sustainable level. So those were kind of the two key takeaways from the survey. But of course, we break things down by variety and region as well. So there's lots of other detail available from the survey numbers that would show us what trends are by variety, depending on which region you're operating in.
Yeah, can you share a little bit more about maybe what's going on in the Central Valley versus some of our coastal regions?
Sure. So in the Central Valley, what we see primarily today is a push towards white varietal planting. So mostly Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, florals like muscats, and also French Colombard, and kind of a pulling back or pulling away from planting red varieties. It seems that the trends in the business are pointing more toward white grape production out of the South Valley and less red. One thing we saw throughout all regions this year was Merlot plantings upticked a little bit this year, and so we actually saw some appreciable numbers in Merlot showing up after years of really not being on the radar. In the coast, we see primarily Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Cabernet as three big varieties that take up the majority of that pie of planting, and so that trend has not changed. We've seen those three as kind of the top three varieties for a number of years now running, and those really are kind of the bulk of the California wine business is Cab, Chard, and Pinot Noir in that kind of $11 to $25 bottle range. So
now it's good to see planting happening. It's good signs for the industry that we're in a pretty good position and people are feeling bullish to plant. Now, on the other hand, we have acreage going out as well. How much acreage went out, over this past year, and are the planting trends overall on an upscale, or are they trending downward?
Overall, and this is a very good question, because we tend to look at what's the net effect of pullouts and plantings, right? We want to see if our bearing acreage is increasing overall or decreasing. Over the last 3 years, our planting has been pretty flat, so we've been in that 15 to 18,000 acres a year of range in terms of what's been going in new wine grapes in the state. And likewise, we've been, last couple of years anyway, this year being forecasted, because we're not quite through the pullout season of 21-22, but that also being 15 to 18,000 acres the last 2 years. So very balanced overall. We had a large pullout year in 2020, the winter of 19 and 20, because the industry was very oversupplied after the 19 crop. So we saw a lot of vineyards come out. We had a net reduction of about 15,000 acres of wine grapes that year. But since that time, which again was a couple of years ago, we've seen a very balanced planting and pulling trend. And so we're not projecting going out into the future anything much different than that. We're looking at a pretty stable or flat bearing acreage base all the way through 2024 at this point.
And would you say it's regionally balanced as well, the amount of acres that are coming out and the areas where they're being replanted? Is it fairly balanced, or are we leaning more towards one area or another?
Well, I would say there is some imbalance there. We see the central interior part of the state retracting in acres. That's based on a declining market for wines below $11, and so that's just kind of following a downward trend. On the upper end of the market, we actually see a situation where the market potential is higher than the amount of grapes we're able to produce. We can't plant more grapes in Napa and Sonoma. There's no more land. And so there's limits on that upper end of the market of what we can plant. Now, in the middle kind of segment of the market, that $11 to $25 bottle price range, that's where all the activity is in terms of planting. That's where a lot of the excitement is. And that is also the segment of the market that's growing the most. But as always, we're trying to keep up, or balance, I should say, that growth in supply and that growth in market. And so we just have to go year to year, see what Mother Nature gives us in terms of crop size to see if we're achieving that balance.
Well, thank you for taking the time, and sounds like we've got some pretty good trends for the future of our industry here in California. Read more about these things in American Vineyard Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.